If I'm not in committee meetings, I will be.
Anything he can say to change your mind on filibuster procedure?
Filibuster is what we have, our rules. We need some good rule changes to make the place work better, but getting rid of the filibuster doesn't make it work better.
You get any pressure from your constituents back home on that issue?
Well, no, I mean, what they know about the filibuster is basically what Bob Byrd has educated people on over the years, and filibuster is what makes the Senate.
Now folks, the child tax credit would have to look dramatically different if Joe Manchin's changes are agreed to by other lawmakers. The last checks for the program went out on December 15th. Manchin has for months criticized the Build Back Better plan's price tag, arguing that it posed too great of a risk with inflation already at historic highs. But in a recent interview with West Virginia, with a local news station, Joe Manchin actually revealed more reasons for his opposition, and specifically why he does not want to continue the expanded tax credit. The centrist senator began by repeating his call for a work requirement, suggesting that such a test is necessary for the payments to be accountable. Other Senate Democrats had rebuked a work requirement in recent months, arguing that raising a child is work, and Manchin signaled in an interview that unless a stipulation were added, he would not support President Biden's Build Back Better bill. Now I think it's outrageous, simply outrageous folks, how Joe Manchin wants to limit out of money, the stimulus money that goes out to the American people right now. Especially with the crisis only getting worse, a stimulus check has to be approved as soon as possible. It is 100% necessary that the expanded monthly child tax credit payments continue to be sent out this year. It is also important that lawmakers in Congress either send out fourth stimulus checks to all Americans, including seniors. But Social Security, SSI, SSDI, RRB, and VA beneficiaries, and passing monthly stimulus checks and passing a Social Security benefit boost should definitely be approved as soon as possible before it gets too late. And if you guys agree with my message, then tell me in the comments down below, I agree. As always, I truly appreciate everyone's support, and if you have any questions about this, then feel free to leave them in the comments, because I'll be doing my very best to answer them. So we have a ton of information to cover around the fourth stimulus check, SSI benefits, Social Security benefits, and SSDI benefits. 5 stimulus check programs that millions of Americans can receive extra financial assistance from this month. And Joe Manchin also just made a huge change. He just now pulled his $1.8 trillion spending compromise off the negotiating table, which means that we can get stimulus checks as soon as January. So folks, you want to be sure to stay until the end of this video to find out the most important stimulus check and SSI information, and Social Security information. So everyone, this is actually progressing very fast in Congress. Democratic Senator of West Virginia, Joe Manchin, just announced that the $1.8 trillion spending offer that he proposed to the White House in late 2021 of last year is no longer on the negotiating table. So this is good news, because this means that Joe Manchin is getting ready to send out more stimulus checks before February of next month. So the Washington Post also said that Joe Manchin told reporters this week that he does not want to be involved in discussions with the White House. Manchin has even reportedly signaled that he does not want to approve any bill like the Build Back Better bill until big changes are made. But Joe Manchin is seriously holding so many bills from being passed through Congress. It's actually really important that President Biden's Build Back Better bill is passed very soon. I know it might be confusing, folks, but let me clear this up. The Build Back Better bill is one of Biden's signature domestic priorities. Manchin's vote is critical in the evenly divided Senate. His opposition torpedoed Build Back Better in December. That is why lawmakers like Chuck Schumer are working hard to find the quickest ways to get Biden's social spending bill passed. The Build Back Better bill, as I said, includes funding for high priority issues for many Americans, including a stimulus check. And now, if Manchin does not want to take action for the American people, then Chuck Schumer has to do something about it. Schumer is now going further than he has ever on the filibuster reform, and it's going to make it easier for the Democrats to send out stimulus checks without the help from people that might be blocking it, like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. In an announcement, Chuck Schumer said he plans to use a vote on voting rights to trigger another vote on overhauling the filibuster. Now, depending on the rules changed by Democrats, it's a move that could affect both voting rights and other bills, and it marks a significant step for Democrats, who've yet to consider this type of reform on the Senate floor. Recently, Democrats approved a filibuster carve-out to raise the debt ceiling, but they did so with Republican help, and it is something that will likely not have this time around. Democratic opposition toward the filibuster, a mechanism by which a senator can block essentially any bill, has grown last year, as Republicans have used the filibuster to block key priorities from President Biden and the Democrats. So folks, the good news is that if this filibuster were eliminated, then the Democrats, who hold a slim majority in the Senate, could pass more stimulus bills, and that means more stimulus checks.
Thank you, Senator Warner. Senator Tillis is from North Carolina, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair Powell, thank you for being here. You mentioned in your opening statement you committed to regular and frequent contact. I can attest to the fact that you have regularly contacted my office, and anytime we've had a request for a conversation, you've been very prompt, so I appreciate you for your responsiveness. I want to talk a little bit about the current extraordinary inflationary pressures and the tools that the Fed has to deal with it. Of course, you could have a benchmark rate increase. We know what that would have as a consequence for raising the price of lending and ultimately affecting the cost of buying a car or buying a house or just making ends meet. Your other option is to reduce the balance sheet, particularly from some of the COVID area bond buying programs. I believe that it was Governor Waller who just last month said that because of the alarming rate of inflation, the Fed should begin shrinking the asset portfolio without delay. And I think this week, the Fed president from Atlanta, Mr. Bostic, said he thinks the Fed should aggressively draw down the balance sheet by at least $100 billion a month. I know you went up from $15 billion to $30 billion, but that's a 3.5 time increase over the current run rate. So to what extent do you think, and give me an idea of discussions that you're having at the Fed to have a faster taper in lieu of a rate increase?
We haven't made any decisions. We had our first discussion of these issues about runoff, and as you mentioned, there are a number of different pieces to talk about. We had that at the December meeting. I expect we'll talk about it again at the January meeting. Again, just no decisions. But as we reflected in our minutes, we looked at what the Fed did last time, and I was there as we ended QE and then later started to have the balance sheet shrink, and we thought we looked at that experience and thought that's quite informative, but the economy's in a completely different place than it was when we ended asset purchases the last time. So the period of time between stopping purchases and beginning runoff will be shorter, and also the balance sheet's much bigger, and so the runoff can be faster. So I would say sooner and faster. That much is clear. Beyond that, we're not at a point of making decisions. At this point, we'll have another discussion, and I think we will be in a position to provide guidance at coming meetings. But we're mindful that the balance sheet is $9 trillion. It's far above where it needs to be, and
it's at the current drawdown rate. That's about a 24-year trajectory to retire the balance sheet. Is that right?
It would depend on the speed, you assume.
Yeah. What sort of indicators are you looking at that would actually drive you to a faster taper, particularly based on some of